headed to the Lakers. Anthony Davis headed to the Mavericks. In a
quite literally, the craziest trade in NBA history just went down.
By far the most shocking trade in NBA history. But
the Mavericks are trading Luka Doncic. Like
be for real. Let's
really fucking stop for a second.
Let's be for real for 1 second, Jack.
It's not real, bro. It's act, bro.
All right, this nigga's trolling clearly because that's just not real.
This isn't real, bro.
Wow.
ESPN is saying it?
Nah, what the f***? They got Luka?
Bro, we got Luka! Somebody come out and say it's fake already!
Don't you say yes, this is real.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Got Luka!
This news of Shams' original post was so stunning that he had to put out another tweet saying, quote, yes, this is real. These are the...
Oh, man. Part of me wished that I recorded my live reaction because I'm pretty sure the decibels in the room that I was in reached peak levels. Like, I couldn't stop screaming. I think the funniest part in all this is that we all thought it was fake. We all thought Shams was hacked. Like, I've never seen a trade like this ever. And I've never seen a reaction like this from everybody else. Like, and then the media reports started coming out, and then something just smelled fishy.
Why are the Mavericks willing to send him to L.A.?
Yeah, I mean, I asked Nico Harrison, the Mavericks general manager, that exact question. And the first thing he said was defense wins championships, talking about bringing in Anthony Davis as...
Yeah, this tweet apparently came mere minutes after the trade happened. Tim McMahon, who reports for the Mavericks via ESPN, apparently Nico Harrison thinks this will win them a championship on the defensive end. He believes that getting an all-in defensive center and an all-NBA player with a defensive mindset gives them a better chance. Okay. Gives them a better chance. Why do I still have this tweet pulled up? Oh my God. I wonder whose farts you have to sniff in Dallas to be able to get away with something like this. I mean, this is highway robbery. We all know that the Lakers won this trade by a mile. People are legit betting against the Mavs now because of this trade. We all see it for what it is. Bad trade. This might be the worst trade ever. And no amount of contrarian bone in my body will make me think this is a justifiable return for Luka Doncic. Only one pick? Are we serious? Anthony Davis? What in the world is going on? Another thing this dude tweeted, right? And this guy's, he's tapped into the Mavs. He said here the Mavs had major concerns about moving Luka Doncic. I can't believe I'm reading this in real life. They had concerns about moving forward this dude due to his constant conditioning issues and the looming commitment of another Supermax contract extension this summer. Yeah, the big story here was that he was not eligible for a $345 million Supermax contract that he was going to be eligible for this summer had he remained with the Mavs, which would obviously would have made him the highest paid NBA player in the history of the NBA, basketball, whatever. And what that basically means is he lost out on a lot of money. I mean, 9 figures worth of money, like 160 million's worth of losses here, to where he's only eligible for a maximum of a 5-year, $229 million contract. Whew, that's tough. So you're telling me they just didn't want to pay him the Supermax he was eligible for and that he deserved to be paid? You're telling me he was too fat so they reconsidered moving forward with him?
I can tell you the Mavericks have been extremely frustrated with Luka Doncic's constant conditioning issues, the concerns. His weight ballooned into the high 260s this season. They believe that is something that is directly attributable to the injury issues that he's had, the durability issues that he's had.
This is by no means disrespect to you, Tim, or anybody that works at ESPN that has this story covered. I don't buy it. I don't believe this for 1 second. Oh, they had a problem with Luka's conditioning. Therefore, they decided to trade away a top 3 player in our association? And then you also have during the NBA Finals, of course, when Luka, lost Game 3, and he really just cost him the game, arguably, with his lack of effort and really his complaining to the referees. And that was the game when Windy, post-game was really ranting about Luka's lack of effort on defense and his constant complaining. That was a game where we saw that rant go viral. And so, yeah, you could have made an argument then that Luka had cost him the series, he had cost him a championship. Well, recently, Windhorst on the Hoop Collective podcast basically talked about that incident and how, the Mavs organization reacted to him saying all those things about, their star player, Luka Doncic.
I showed up the next 2 days, and I got jeered by the fans.
Right.
Said all kinds of crazy bleep to me, chanted my name or whatever after Luka was great in Game 4. I heard nothing from the Mavericks.
No.
And from ownership through the front office to the coach, I was standing in the arena for 2 days on end. I wasn't dodging anybody. I went to the press conferences. I was in Luka's press conference. I was standing on the court. Nobody said anything to me.
And so I guess what the story seems to be here is that the Mavs, they've been sick of Luka Doncic and this, lack of effort, this, conditioning, not taking his body seriously.
Clear around the NBA is that the Dallas Mavericks are making a bet against Luka Doncic. The Mavericks are making a bet against his body, his ability to be in shape. They're making a bet on him potentially severely declining. And I am told that there has been some level of friction between Doncic and the team's medical performance staff over the last year or so.
And so what I'm supposed to believe now is all this was brewing in the background for a year or so, and it just now got out after they pulled a crazy, stunning trade that everybody was shocked at. Mind you, there was little to no noise about Luka Doncic's conditioning. When there was noise, the media would always bring up a caveat of, oh, Luka Doncic, he's still working hard. He still plays the game at an elite level. But now all of a sudden, it's a condemnation. It's an indictment on Luka's game. The articles on this portray a contrast here. They portray this move being so sudden and how nobody knew about it, but they also portray how, calculated this move was, how much thought was into this move by, a few parties, Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka. And the thing that made me snap and that made me get up here and make this video today is this freaking take by Perk saying the Mavs won the Luka Doncic Anthony Davis trade. Man, if you don't get the hell out of here with this BS, bro, this just tells me the media was told to say this. He's been told to say stuff like this. Not just him, but Timmy here has probably been planted a few things to say by the media too. Okay, I'm not gonna go too far off the rails. I need to lead you guys back to where this all started, right? Because I think this trade was intentional by the Mavs. I think this Mavs team were trying to make this trade to really destroy the morale in the franchise. And so far it's working. I mean, holy hell. I mean, that scoreboard doesn't even reflect how bad it was. At one point, this was the halftime score of the game, bro. That's how bad it was. I know the starters didn't play, but that just tells me another thing. The starters didn't even want to play this game. Oh, they're putting out injury lists, right? I honestly think the morale is fucked over there in Dallas. I might make a video on how the Lakers get bailed out just decades and decades in. But today I want to reflect on the Mavs side and really just outline a few arguments as to why I think the Mavs are desperate to make trades like this now.
What the psychological impact of this? You got everybody in Dallas hating this trade. There's going to be no feel. There's no good chemistry.
I think that works.
You got Irving now. Psychologically, this is a damaging blow to the franchise. They traded the second, take a number after LeBron and after you can figure out what number he is as far as the best player in the league is concerned. They traded a top 3, top 4 player in the league who's 6 years younger than Anthony Davis, and they traded him to the Lakers, and they got a 33-year-old guy left. Look at these signs. I don't buy it. I think the Mavericks are going to be in for a long road in the NBA postseason.
Well, listen.
I can't believe I'm agreeing with Mad Dog. The psychological blow this does to a franchise. This was basically the knight in shining armor in Luka Doncic. And you're basically stabbing everybody that watches at home in the backs with this trade. You're basically just telling them that you don't care about them. And now I want to explore the background of this dude, Nico Harrison, who's, I guess the brains behind this trade, according to what the media says at least.
Thanks for everybody for coming. Jay, is it normally this crowd is pre-game speeches?
No, they don't want to hear about everybody who's out.
What's clear is he's the fall guy for all this. And it's very convenient that he is so because his background, and when you look more into, the type of guy he is and what deals he's done in the past, it seems to check the boxes here.
Jay Kidd and I, we've had a vision in the culture that we want to create since we've been here. And the players that we're bringing in, we believe exemplify that. And, we think defense wins championships, and we're bringing in one of the best two-way players in the league.
You know what's funny about this is he's talking about this defense and his offense when the Mavs last season, as far as I'm remembering this correctly here, were a top 7 defense after making those 2 trades for both Gafford and PJ Washington at the deadline. So you mean to tell me that the defense just wasn't good enough? Basically, the reason they didn't win a championship last season was because of Luka's bad defense, and that now, with my expertise here and this beautiful trade that I've crafted here, we're in a better position to win a championship now. Holy shit, I've never heard somebody so delusional. I think Ant Hoops made a great point here. Like, Luka Doncic is 3rd all-time in points per game and career averages, and he's one of 3 players, including LeBron and Oscar Robertson, that have career averages of 25, 7, and 7. What you have in AD may be a transformative player on the defensive end, but what you have in Luka is even more so on the offensive end. It doesn't take a genius to know that Luka Doncic is one of the best, if not the best offensive engines in the league right now. A guy that, despite having weight issues when he comes in training camp, does things at an elite level that has never been seen in this league before. He's one of 21 players in the history of the NBA to earn at least 5 All-NBA first team nods. Not even Steph Curry has that many All-NBA first team nods, by the way. He's only 25 years old and is already putting up numbers that a 30-plus-year-old would dream of putting up. A guy who's been easily top 8 at the very least in MVP convos after his rookie year, the 5 years subsequently after his rookie year, which was, by the way, the years he made All-NBA first team as well, with crazy averages throughout these last couple seasons of 33 points per game, 9.8 assists, 9.2 rebounds. By the way, that season, Luka didn't even earn 2nd in MVP when he was 3rd, but behind guys like Shea and Jokic. And your excuse is that, defense wins you championships? Are you freaking serious? That is tantamount to being the worst GM of all time doing a trade like this and justifying it so in this way. And now you may think I'm weird for saying this, but I'll explain to you why this makes no sense. This does not fall in line with his track record, Nico Harrison's track record, that is. He has been an excellent GM for the last couple of years. And this one trade just completely goes against all that he's built in Dallas. This fiasco of a trade also brought back another fiasco that he was involved in, the botched presentation that Nike had, pitching, to Steph Curry why him and his family should sign with Nike. So as you can imagine, now Nico Harrison becomes the most hated person in NBA sphere that we've seen in quite a long time because of all this colliding into each other. You're telling me Nico Harrison as a Nike rep had a say or had an influence in Curry not signing with Nike? Are you serious? I'll let Nico himself clear the air on this, okay? Because it's not completely true what people are saying.
Listen, so there's an article out, and the article says I mispronounced his name.
Yeah.
I
didn't know it was you. I thought it was somebody else.
No, it wasn't me.
I knew it wasn't you.
No, it absolutely wasn't me. But they didn't know the other person. They knew me. So they said I mispronounced his name because it's sexy.
Right. Journalism.
But I'm like, first of all, I've known this guy forever, like since he was in high school. I used to rep his dad. How am I going to I might have called him Seth, but I wouldn't.
Of course.
I wasn't going to mispronounce his name. So
it is true that he was involved in that Nike presentation, that he was in charge of the people who had been behind mispronouncing his name, and he may have mispronounced his name and said his brother's name instead. But this is not nearly as crazy of a situation as people portrayed it to be during, the last couple of days. And I know some people are going to go back and say, oh, he let go of Porzingis. He traded him away for what? Oh, he let go of Jalen Brunson. He let him walk. Obviously, the return on the trade was underwhelming for Dallas's liking. Davis Bertans making up a huge chunk of the salary dump here. And Dallas was basically just shaving off salary here, and obviously they just wanted to get rid of Porzingis as well. Obviously the injury history and of course the beef with Luka. There was obviously a good reason for this trade to be made in the first place. And the Jalen Brunson signing to the Knicks was a foregone conclusion. Even the Mavs knew it was going to happen. There was no point competing to give him a contract that he, at the time, I don't think he deserved much of it. Quite frankly, it aged poorly for Dallas, but Rick Brunson, the connection with him being an assistant for the Knicks, it made this just not really something worth investing in for Dallas. And to those saying he got lucky when Kyrie Irving was available in the market, He made a trade that was, I think, a good trade. I think a lot of people will agree, even though he gave up a bunch of picks for it. If you want to take credit away from Nico Harrison by saying, oh, Kyrie being available and, tanking his value was obviously making it possible for you to trade at this low of value. Well, you also got to give credit for him having the connection with Kyrie since he was 16 as a rep for Nike. He's repped a lot of players. He's been on the top of the echelons when it comes to, repping players at Nike. Kobe, Anthony Davis. Again, another player that is in the story. I just think over the last year and a half, right, Nico Harrison has done such a great job running this Mavericks team that the one Luka trade he makes, it just falls out of line with all the recent patterns he's been doing. To where even when they mess up and sign for a Grant Williams at an overpay, quite frankly, this was horrible. This aged poorly. Why would you do this, Dallas? The Mavericks then come up and have one of the best deadlines that we've seen in quite some time.
Who was your biggest winner from today?
For me, it's Dallas. And I heard Jason Kidd say something about a week ago that you have to do everything possible when you have a player like Luka Doncic on your roster as far as finding the most talent to surround him. And I know there was 2 first-round picks that went out, but when you get Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington in a trade and that upgrades your roster, I look at Dallas as one of the big winners today. And I think certainly
pivotal moves that were made at the deadline, which reinforced their great defense, not to mention, by the way, them trading down with OKC to get Derek Lively from the Thunder, right? Dallas has positioned themselves in a way that for the future they were set, despite not having as much flexibility in terms of draft capital because they gave it away in a bunch of these moves that they've made. It was obvious that he was steering the ship towards the right direction and that he was a stable, a very good GM. He was calculated. He knew what he was doing. And what I'm about to show you are a couple of clips from recent interviews over the last months of, Nico Harrison talk about Luka Doncic, right? And in no way was Nico Harrison even thinking about dealing Luka.
We haven't talked about 77, and so we need to. So what's your favorite thing about Luka as a player?
One is that he's so good, and you know it because you see it. And I think Dallas fans are probably spoiled because they see it night in, night out. But then when you see him in practice, it's unbelievable. He can manipulate the game. He sees things before it happens. He's unstoppable. He plays at his own pace. He defies logic.
This was a special little podcast recorded on the Dallas Mavericks channel on December 11th. I mean, it wasn't recorded, it was published to YouTube on December 11th. But this was recent. This is what he had to say about Luka. That he defies logic? Why would somebody who praises Luka to such an extent want to deal him in a trade for AD? Even crazier is this clip from 2 weeks before Luka got traded. It will make you think that something else was in play here.
How much is Luka Doncic worth? I'm not talking necessarily in money, but
He's worth a lot.
No, we are not talking about in money. We are not talking in numbers. Maybe we are talking in human value. But what would your answer be? How much is Luka Doncic worth?
I don't know that you can put a price tag on it. Honestly, the value that he brings to the franchise, to the NBA, to this organization, it's immeasurable.
Would you say that Luka changed the club for the better?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at what he's done to this team. I mean, he's such a dynamic player. He makes everybody around him better. His marketability, people from all over the world come to watch him play because of what he means to the NBA and the basketball.
Do you think you have a really, really hard job because you have to make Luka Doncic the NBA champion? Or is that an honor for you, in your career, that you will be able to help Luka to become a champion?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's a tough job, but it's an honor because I feel like we're going to be champions, and it will be because of Luka. So I'll be honored to deliver that championship.
And just my last question, it's kind of informal question, but do you maybe get some calls about, I want to play with Luka, can you get me a job in Dallas?
All the time. All the NBA players, they're like, yo, bring me, I want to come.
You're telling me this dude, Nico Harrison, just an elite liar. He's the ultimate manipulator, that he would say all this 2 weeks before he trades Luka Doncic. He would say all this, and the reports did come out that this was a prolonged process with the Lakers, Rob Pelinka, for a month or even longer, perhaps. Are you telling me he's just double-faced lying to this woman that is from a Slovenian radio station or whatever the hell? Is this what's going on? Is he just a master liar? Occam's razor may suggest that Nico Harrison is just a dumbass, but such a good track record that he has over the last year and a half that I refuse to believe that this is the story, that's it, that's the end of it. There has to be way more to this, and I think all of you watching at home can agree with me as well.
Let's talk a little Las Vegas Sands shares. They are dropping this morning, and this comes after Mark Cuban is reportedly selling a majority stake of the Dallas Mavericks to Miriam Adelson, the largest shareholder of the Las Vegas Sands resort chain.
I think I've seen some people touch on this briefly. I'll try to touch on it a bit more in detail because this story does seem to rely on a lot of us not knowing much about the whereabouts of whoever owns the Mavericks, whoever sold it off to whoever, whatnot.
Cuban said last year that he hopes to partner with LV Sands to move the Mavericks to a new arena that would be in the middle of a resort and casino.
The Mavericks have a lease on the American Airlines Center until 2031, and many have speculated over the last couple of years that they would have to move the arena at some point, and that sale that Mark Cuban had of the franchise basically confirms that at some point they're looking to move the arena. Not just that, but build a completely new resort casino with the arena being there as well. And believe me, this is very relevant to this story overall. And you'll see in a couple of minutes that there's a lot more to this than you expected coming into this video. As we're going to get to know the owners of the Mavs, we're going to get to know a little bit more about their history, their background, what they like to do, what they like to say, and some of the things that they've promised the fans of Dallas.
New report shedding light on how the politics of one of the richest women in the world and one of the richest owners in the league is taking center stage off the court. News Nation's Stephanie Haynes is out.
The report seems to be that Miriam Adelson's political affiliations with Donald Trump, to name a few, proved to be a big obstacle in the NBA naming her as the governor of the Mavericks, and that is why her son-in-law was the one instead named as the governor of the Mavericks, the one that would show up in the Board of Governor meetings. Now, the original report came from Pablo Torre, and I'll link you the full podcast in the video, and I'll try to sum up some of the points or some of the key details that have been touched upon here.
Team Mark Cuban may be selling the Dallas Mavericks to casino mogul Sheldon Adelson's widow, Miriam, for $3.5 billion. And in a head-scratcher, Cuban will apparently remain a minority owner of the Mavs and in control of the team's basketball operations. Now,
let's just say the Adelson family have deep, deep pockets in Las Vegas, okay? And that they've been lobbying to have deep, deep pockets in Texas, with the Mavs ownership being a gateway for them to do so. Miriam Adelson, who is the widow of the late Sheldon Adelson, she's very outspoken about the Israeli-Hamas conflict and what she thinks should happen in the state of Israel. Let's just say her and her husband were lining up the pockets of the top politicians to gain influence and power amongst those guys. By opening up huge casinos around the world, they've made up and amassed billions of dollars of fortune. Sheldon Adelson was the one that started up making that wealth of fortune, but then Miriam, after marrying her, there was a lot more philanthropic actions made by these two, namely contributions to not just the top politicians, but to some big causes in medical research, and not just that, but in geopolitics as well. He ended up passing away in 2021, where Miriam assumed much of the fortunes, much of the ownership of the Las Vegas Sands Corporation. And as you can see here, a website that shows the top contributors of the Trump campaign in 2024, which ended up being a success, obviously. SpaceX being the number one. No surprises here. Adelson Clinic for Drug Abuse Treatment and Research being at $100+ million. And of course, this was announced in June.
Know what a Zionist was, but after the trip, I did. So, Miriam, I want to thank you for all you've done for the state of Israel, for our country. We miss Sheldon. We love you.
She created a PAC called Preserve America PAC, where it basically just slanders Biden on the front page of that website. And when I go on the website today, it basically trashes Kamala Harris when she came in and obviously was the lead candidate for the Democratic Party. Why do I have to talk about this nonsense? It was just supposed to be about basketball. But again, this is the thing. This whole move, this Luka trade, there's no sensible basketball reason that makes sense, okay? There's just none, okay? There's a whole article by the New York Magazine by Elizabeth Whale that basically outlines a lot of the timeline of Muriel Adelson. She got a Presidential Medal of Freedom from Trump in 2018 just because she gave him a lot of money. That's basically why she got the medal. That article will also be in the description. And then 2020, obviously, it was an unsuccessful bid for an election. Look at the #1 contributor here, Las Vegas Sands, for $45 million. And then look at who's #2, Adelson Clinic for Drug Abuse Treatment and Research. So they gave up more money, that is upwards of $90 million combined, than the next, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then the next 10 or so donations that have been given. Just insane. The widow of a late casino mogul that is also very outspoken about Israel now also owns the Dallas Mavericks in a big push to have a casino resort either in Vegas or Texas, and we'll get more into that. But Pablo Torre, after he had released that report, the NBA had responded to him saying that it is categorically false that this was the reason why Patrick Dumont, the son-in-law of Miriam Adelson, was selected as governor instead of her straight being selected. So you're telling me the NBA is going to let her own the Mavericks, right? They'll let her buy shares of the Mavericks, but they're not going to let her be the lead governor. What are their priorities at this point? I mean, it's obvious that their priority is money over all things. Quite frankly, the NBA just wants to make as much money as possible. It's been their incentive since day one. I know a profitable business, that's their incentive anyway, but that lack of integrity is just being highlighted time after time after time, where you see obviously Dallas Mavericks, and this is another thing that I want to touch on. I doubt that Kyrie Irving will stay in Dallas long term. He has a player option coming up, but I doubt that he is comfortable with this new ownership being in Dallas here. Now let's get into Patrick Dumont, what he said here recently about what he plans to do for the Mavericks.
The same factors apply. This is a great market to invest in. We're the #1 large-scale developer of destination resorts, and we're very excited to potentially bring a new industry here, which is both business and leisure tourism. So if you think of what Las Vegas has from the business tourism side, we think Dallas would be an ideal market to build that type of tourism infrastructure, to allow for business meetings to occur here in large scale, to allow for other amenities to drive leisure tourism here that don't exist today. You know, it's funny, when you talk to Mark about it, he said, where's the selfie opportunity for Dallas? Where do people go in Dallas when they want to take a selfie? Hopefully it's right here in front of American Airlines Center. But if this isn't it, maybe there's an opportunity to build something that is a destination where people from all over the country want to come to Dallas and experience both business and leisure tourism in a first-class way. And that's
He's pretty open. He wants to bring a casino-like resort in Texas, a state that has obviously not legalized gambling to the extent that, you know, Nevada has in Las Vegas and other states have. And so this move is obviously a play to get that casino-like resort in the state of Texas, notably. And because of that, a big play that they made was acquire the Dallas Mavericks, who had recently made the NBA Finals in 2024. But with that much money and power and influence, that's not all they did. They also lobbied a lot in the Texas Senate and in the Texas legislature to get gambling to be legalized as soon as possible so that they can get their casino resort to be built as quickly as possible.
Zero support for casino gambling or sports betting. And when I say zero support, there wasn't anyone who was interested.
And while they had tried in previous legislative sessions to bring this bill into place and they failed. But of course, this will not deter the Adelson family from investing long-term into the Mavericks. As we know from history, the Adelson family has other tricks up their sleeves to get their way. I think a lot of you remember how the Raiders' relocation to Vegas took shape, right?
How deep are the Adelson pockets? They have very deep pockets, and they're
people that are very, very powerful. So when it comes to the Adelsons, I would never bet against them.
Reese is a play-by-play announcer for the Las Vegas Raiders. The same team, the Adelsons, are credited for leading the efforts to relocate from Oakland to Las Vegas just a few years ago.
You've seen the way that family handles their business with the Raiders. What can we expect as their business style when they come to Dallas?
Yeah, they're aggressive. They go for the big money. They go for the home runs in an industry out in Vegas where it's dominated by Caesars, by MGM. You got loners like Steve Wynn, like the Adelson family, that they got their own part of the strip as well because they don't want to associate with other people. They want to be the ones in charge.
And as new
So am I hinting at the proposition that maybe the Adelson family will relocate the Dallas Mavericks to Las Vegas potentially? Well, one thing I will tell you is that it'd be pretty hard to do so if the fans were very engaged with the Mavericks, as they were with them making the finals in 2024, led by Luka Doncic. I think you're starting to see where I'm getting at here.
Money and his name gave the deal credibility. And then the NFL, the Raiders, Las Vegas, and the state legislature jumped on board to make it happen. About halfway through, Adelson left the project. Bank of America stepped in to complete the deal. But by that time, his work was done, and a major stadium for Las Vegas was going to be built. And today, nothing could have made him happy.
Why would this family even think of relocating any team, for that matter, in Las Vegas? Well, their business runs deep in Las Vegas. Having more fans engaged in that Las Vegas market gives them more revenue streams so that more fans can be engaged with their stuff in Las Vegas. If the Mavericks were to have a casino open in Texas, that's an even bigger market that they could tap into, say, should the legalization of gambling take place in Texas. This, at the end of the day, is an investment. They invested in the Mavericks for the goal of profiting off of the Mavericks franchise. And even with Mark Cuban saying that the Adelson family, they're not basketball people, I think a lot of people still haven't taken the hint as to what their true intentions are here. Okay. But how does all this line up with the most shocking trade of all time and Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis in one pick? Well, I'll tell you how. Let's get back into those lobbying efforts that the Adelson family are very famous of contributing to here, that obviously puts some of these guys in a very precarious situation. So many people argue if Mark Cuban still had retained control of basketball operations. Oh, yeah, that's another thing I forgot to let you know. This was something I recently found out. But even though they had previously agreed to give Cuban control of the basketball operations, they later decided not to do so. And so Cuban, just selling off his majority stake, now doesn't have control of not only the majority stake of the team, but he only holds a minority in which he does not control any say basketball-wise. So now Nico Harrison directly reports to Patrick Dumont, who's the governor, as we know, the son-in-law of Miriam Adelson. And even though they lost in the finals, Nico Harrison also got given an extension by Patrick Dumont and the Adelson family. And so they were committed long-term to him, as he was pivotal to the Mavericks being in the finals recently. So how did things change so suddenly to where we are today, and just this fiasco that we have in our hands? Let's just say the Adelson family's efforts to bankroll pro-gambling efforts in Texas proved to be much tougher than initially expected. So the new Mavs CEO, Rick Wells, was very open. He wants a new area of global growth. He wants this Dallas Mavericks to basically grow at a bigger stage. This article being published in January 22 of 2025, mere days before the big trade happened. It was obvious that the Maverick organization had this arena in mind with the casino resorts. This was their big plan. And the Adelson family, they've been lobbying and giving money to lobbyists all over Texas so that they could get this casino bill into motion in the Texas legislature. As this article's subtitle illustrates here, if Texas legalizes gambling, the Adelson family could build a casino resort complex. But there's no guarantee it would be in Dallas. No guarantee it would be in Dallas. A team that is so beloved. From Dirk to now Luka. You've made the finals now in 2024. You're a contending team. How in the world could you even envision this team being elsewhere? Well, the priority wasn't really to find another place to, host this arena. It was really just to get gambling to be legalized in Texas, or that's when they'll be able to really launch their full-scale casino resort in Texas. But as the article highlights too, the gambling bills, it faced uphill battles in Texas because obviously it's a majority Republican Senate. It's a majority Republican really state, to quite frankly, the red state of Texas. They hold pretty intense values when it comes to opposing gambling. And, you know, those are values that I quite frankly agree with. But that's neither here nor there, because obviously the Adelson family, that went counter to what they had envisioned for the state of Texas. The chances of it passing through the Texas legislature this year in 2025 were very bleak. And rightfully so. You're going up against a Republican party of Texas that is quite open in how they feel about gambling. Let me just try to look up here gambling, right? I'm going to look this up here and see what I get. Oh, there you go. Finance. Let's see here. It is vehemently opposed to gambling. See that line here, number 65, gambling. We oppose any expansion of gambling, including legalized casino gambling. Uh-oh, that is a big obstacle for them to face. And so what do you do when you have that much power and money and cachet? Well, you have something called a Texas Destination Resort Alliance, which is a pact that was created by the Adelson family. And they've basically been running ads on TV that are just, quite frankly, interesting.
More than 500,000 Texans support bringing destination resorts to the Lone Star State.
If putting money back into education would be an outcome, I believe it is very necessary.
We're living a lot. Trying to get as many Texans to be on board with this so that they could be pressured by the politicians to do this, right?
So the group is gathering support for a state constitutional amendment to allow destination resorts to be built in Texas, along with casinos. At the very bottom of the Alliance's website, there's a note that reads, paid for by the Las Vegas Sands Corporation.
And would you guess it, the pack was launched in 2021. And oh boy, the following year is when we heard reports of Mark Cuban selling the team to the Adelson family. So this article is saying that Dumont and Sands understand that they're in for a wait likely beyond the 2025 to 2027 or even 2029. Yeah, they've been thinking about this stuff long term.
Sands is launching a multi-million-dollar ad campaign.
This was in 2021, by the way. They started doing this back then. This is when it all started. They were thinking about this for a while. But the Republican Party of Texas proves to be one of the biggest hurdles in getting all this planned out.
Is there any chance that might pass? Because it's all the talk in Dallas.
Yeah. So, Jason, the Sands particularly, they've been working really hard to get it passed here. And I've continued to say to them that it doesn't have the support of the members because the members don't have the support of their people who want it. When we finished the session, no one called and said, oh, you didn't pass the casino bill. It's not on anyone's top 20 list. It doesn't mean there aren't people who really want it. But like anything else, Jason, it really bubbles up from the ground to tell a House member or a senator that they want this legislation to pass. And that just has not happened.
Apparently, during the last session, they were 3 votes away from having the bill being passed. Every Democrat voted for it. Only 28 of the 85 Republicans had voted for it as well. So a huge percentage of Democrats, but a very low percentage of Republicans voting for that bill to pass. And again, we're still in a Texas that is majority Republican, that is still ran by Republicans. And so you're gonna have to do a lot more bang for your buck to get this through. And for the 2025 legislative session, a recent joint resolution has been filed by Carol Alvarado, who is the minority leader of the Texas State Senate for the Democratic Party of Texas. And you can see here it says casino a lot, and obviously this is the bill that they're trying to push forth now. And if you go on the Texas Senate website, the bill has been read to the Senate for the first time in February 3rd of 2025, which was a day ago from the time I'm recording this video. And you can verify here on the website, obviously read for first time in the Senate. Wow, that is just crazy how recently this stuff has been read. So now it's going through the process again of being voted through, and is very likely that it won't pass. And so the Adelson family would have to wait an additional 2 years to get the next bill passed, which again, I'm not sure if they're willing to wait until 2029 or even further out. But look, they have time.
I've been a master my whole entire life since I've been a baby.
This is the worst moment in the history of my life. This is ridiculous. This is crazy, man. We went to the NBA Finals. Why are we trading the best player, the franchise player? How are we trading the franchise player? We went to the NBA Finals.
And look, I know this is all conspiracy talk. I know people are going to dismiss this and refer to Occam's razor and say Nico Harrison's just an idiot. He was a fan of AD and he values him so much so that he made a trade so dumb that he only consulted Rob Pelinka, or it just so happened that Danny Ainge was not aware of this trade happening. Are we serious? Are we really gonna buy this crap? You're telling me a GM at Danny Ainge was very proud of fleecing teams, is not going to be aware of Luka Doncic being traded for Anthony Davis? He's not going to be aware of that happening? You're telling me the NBA is not going to be aware? You're telling me it's only Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison and the ownership of the Mavs who were aware of this? You're telling me those are the only people aware, privy to this? Rich Paul, according to Chris Haynes, was informed of this trade happening, but LeBron didn't know. You mean to tell me that the guy Nico Harrison, who's had a great track record up to this point, just suddenly decided to trade Luka Doncic for AD because why not? You're telling me 2 weeks after saying what he said to that Slovenian interviewer, oh, he's just decided all of a sudden now it's time. Oh, Luka, you're not the guy that I thought defied logic. And look, there are stories of Luka's, key members of his training staff being fired, one by one. And basically they were alienating Luka for over a year now. I know that there is some merit to some of the reporting that ESPN has put out regarding the trade. And there's a lot more storylines that are going to be found out later on that we're just not aware of right now. But even the biggest platforms on NBA YouTube, the ones that tend to be very positive about every trade, even they don't understand this. Even they're confused about this trade. And you're telling me a Windhorse rant that the Mavs organization were agreeing to, the constant complaints of Luka just not being in shape, were basically the straw that broke the camel's back, along with not being able to invest, $345 million over a duration of 5 years for a player that is clearly deserving of it? You're telling me all this is because of a guy that, gained a bit too much weight? That could clearly be fixed. That's something that clearly can be corrected. Don't be gaslit by the media. Don't be gaslit by people that'll tell you that this makes the Mavericks better. In my eyes, this makes AD and the Mavs just a better team and they'll win championships. My dog, only Nico Harrison's imagination of... I'm not even sure if he agrees with this take. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even think Nico Harrison thinks this. But one thing that does make sense to me is not the basketball reasons for this. It's the business reasons. That's what makes sense to me. Alienating Mavs fans that have been rooting for Luka. Luka is the story of this franchise. He's the torchbearer after Dirk, the beloved franchise legend that is Dirk, that has a statue outside with the engravement of loyalty never fades away. And quite literally what the franchise just did in the last couple of days was completely tear that shit down. There's something poetic about JJ Redick, getting to coach LeBron and Luka during his first season as coach. It's just so funny to see. But it also does say a lot about how persistent the Adelson family is, right? And how they're willing to do a lot of things to get their way. And it's very plausible that years down the line, we're going to see so much apathy amongst the Mavs fan base that the owners could easily use the teams as leverage for the Texas legislator to basically pass the bill. If you don't pass this bill, I'm going to relocate this franchise to Las Vegas before the expansion team comes around. And Nico Harrison, having the relationships he's had with players like Kyrie and AD, makes him the perfect fall guy, to where a guy like AD being traded is just seen as, oh, Nico Harrison had a very, very great image of AD. He had a very liking to AD. Look, Nico Harrison's just an idiot. Look, Charles Barkley told me he's an idiot. Everybody on TV said he's an idiot. Also, this adds to the NBA rating boost that, the NBA is trying to get ratings to go up, and this is just another way for them to do so. But it also benefits their bottom line because now owners get to profit more on the likelihood now that is increased of Texas enacting this bill. Because what? Because Dallas now has the leverage to basically tell the Texas Senate and the Texas legislator, oh, if you don't do things my way, well, you're going to lose out on a historic franchise that, quite frankly, the fans don't care to root for anymore. We just broke up. We just stabbed them in the back right now with this Luka trade. We're willing to do worse things if you don't give us what we want. So do so, and you get to have your cake and eat it too. You get to have the Mavericks, but you also get to make even more billions with the casino revenue and the resort. It's going to be a beautiful destination for people to go. It's going to be Las Vegas 2.0. Come on. And I'll just end the video with this fan here and what he said that was very pertinent to this whole situation.
No precedent for this in the history of the NBA, that you don't trade a 25-year-old MVP candidate in his prime for a 32-year-old made of glass and a single pick. We just went to the finals last year. It's not like we missed the playoffs. It's not like we lost in the first round. And they could win every game the rest of the season and win the championship, and it wouldn't really matter because all of the emotional value and in that journey just got sucked away. But it feels like someone close to you died in a way, and there's lots of anger for sure. What's inscribed on that statue over there, Dirk statue, says loyalty never fades away, and apparently that's only a one-way street. That only matters for the players because loyalty definitely faded away from the organization. They didn't hold up their end of the bargain. He was loyal and they weren't. So I guess that inscription doesn't really mean anything.